Howdy, everybody, and I hope all is well. I want to talk today about Facebook pixels and custom events. This is a lecture that I've gotten a lot of requests on from you guys, and I wanted to sort of break down installing a Facebook pixel, setting up conversions, etc. Like, Facebook makes it very, very complicated for some reason to do this. They have like 7 different tools. It's hard to find what you're looking for. Custom conversion events and events are 2 different things in Facebook's eyes. The pixel is different than conversions. What is the pixel? So I want to talk to you about all that stuff, help you understand it in a very simple way. It's very good for you to understand these things yourself. But if you're managing Facebook campaigns for clients, this stuff is going to come up all the time, and you're going to really benefit from being able to explain to your clients in a very clear and understandable way what all this stuff is. So let's jump into it. First, if you haven't bought my billing template, the template that helps you design complex return on ad spend bonuses, or rather complex bonuses targeting lead volume for your clients. So let's say you're charging your clients, a certain percentage of your total ad spend, or you're charging them in a bracketed structure. I've talked about this a lot. Many of you have heard me talk about this. It's very valuable to offer your clients a bonus incentive where you discount the base fee in exchange for being able to earn a bonus based on performance. So if you'd like to check out that template, go to bit.ly/lead bonus, bit.ly/lead bonus. The link is down at the bottom of this slide over here. And check that out, because it's a really, really good bonus system. You have a 7-day money back guarantee, but hundreds of people have already bought it. It's a relatively new product, and so far everyone who's purchased it said it's been really, really great. So that's that. Okay, so Facebook pixels and custom events. I want to walk you through a couple slides first, just to give you an overview of what we're going to talk about, and then I'm going to bring you into a live Facebook account and show you how to set all this stuff up. And remember, while Facebook makes this stuff seem very complicated, it's not really complicated. Once you understand the fundamentals, like what a pixel is and what a custom conversion is, and just like the basic things they're used for, I think you'll have a very easy and clear understanding of how it all works together. So first, let's take a look at the Facebook pixel. The Facebook pixel is just a piece of code that you add into the header section of your website, and it is used to collect audiences. It's used to collect people into a pool that you could then use from. So think about it as like, maybe a census. Like we're just tracking a lot of users, and we're adding them into a database, but we're not actually doing anything with them just by installing the pixel. And the pixel is like an actual piece of code. It's a 1x1 pixel, transparent piece of script that goes on your website wherever you tell your website backend to fire the pixel. And I'll explain that in a second. Facebook's going to give you, when you create a business account, Facebook's going to give you a pixel that's going to look like this. That's going to look like what you see on the screen. Don't worry about understanding anything in there. All you need to know is that it's worthwhile to add that pixel to your site, and it's every single time a page loads that has this pixel installed, Facebook will track and add that user to the database. Now, you don't get things like name and any personal identifiable information. It's an alphanumeric string that identifies that user, and it's going to track a page view. That's what the pixel does. It just starts collecting that database. So the first thing you need to know about all this stuff is install this pixel right away. And I'm going to show you how to do this. And you might have 300 pages on your website, but it's okay, because you're going to be able to install the pixel in the header section, in the header code of your website, and it'll automatically fire on every single page that has that header code. And I'm going to talk to you about Google Tag Manager or other tag manager systems. Google Tag Manager happens to be the most popular, but you could install it through any tag manager system, and that's actually the easiest way to install the pixel. So if you have a WordPress site or a Squarespace site or a Weebly or a Wix or any of these CMS systems, or HubSpot site, Shopify site, it's very easy to install the Facebook pixel. You just need to find most of these CMS platforms actually have apps that allow you to just install the pixel, install a certain piece of code in the header section. But again, Tag Manager is going to be the easiest way to do it, and I'll show you how to do that. So install that pixel right away, even before you launch Facebook campaigns, because that's one of the biggest mistakes I've seen with advertisers getting started with Facebook. Like, they might be 3 months out from actually launching a paid advertising campaign, but they're not collecting audiences. So when it comes time for them to actually create a campaign in Facebook ads, they're not able to run a remarketing campaign because they haven't installed the pixel on their site. So even if it's a brand new site, even if you don't have any intention of running Facebook ads yet, it's still worth it. It's very important to just install that Facebook pixel on your site right away, because then in a month from now, or in a week from now, or in a few days from now, you want to run a remarketing campaign to cart abandoners, or a remarketing campaign on Facebook to previous website visitors within the last 30 days. You could do that because you already have data from your pixel. And just adding the pixel to your site doesn't do anything. It doesn't cost you any money. It doesn't mean you're running an ad campaign. You don't need to be running any campaigns to have a pixel. So just install that pixel on your site. Now the pixel, like I said, will only collect users. If you want to use the pixel, if you want to get any benefit out of that pixel, then you'll have to be creating custom audiences, conversion events, running campaigns, and there's all different ways you could use that pixel, and I'll explain that in a few minutes. Ideally, you should be tracking value. So whether it's a form submission you're tracking or a newsletter sign up, you should be able to attach a value to that. And Facebook makes it very easy for you to do that. But especially if it's a purchase conversion, if you're going to end up tracking conversions through Facebook ads, then you should definitely be setting up events that track value, that you input the value, and I'll show you again how to do that. Now remember, the pixel is not what tracks conversions per se. You need to add additional code or set up a custom conversion to tell Facebook when an actual valuable conversion event happened. And remember, the way we define conversion is any action a user would take on your site that you want them to take that in some way represents revenue or value. So those typical conversion actions would be a form submission, a phone call potentially, a view of a key page, requesting contact information, a purchase, a subscriber, an ebook download, right? All those types of things are typical conversion events. And you could track all those with Facebook. You need the pixel in order to track it, but it's not the only thing you need. So I guess you could say where the pixel is a necessary prerequisite to tracking conversions, but it is not a sufficient prerequisite to tracking conversions. There are other things you need, and those are going to be custom conversions or Facebook events. And I'm going to cover those in a second. Make sure the pixel is installed on every page. I've seen a lot of people that just throw the pixel on the home page of their site, but that means if somebody goes to any other page but the home page, the pixel won't fire. So let's say somebody comes to an inner page of your site through an organic link or through a Facebook post or whatever it may be, or they come to a blog post. You want the pixel on every single page. There's no reason that I could think of not to have the pixel everywhere, because you might think, well, I only want to run a remarketing campaign to people who viewed a product page. That's fine. You'll be able to set up a custom audience of people in that pixel that just viewed a specific product page or all product pages based on URL rules. That we'll talk about that in a second in custom conversions. But just because a view of a specific random page on your site is not valuable to you per se, you should still have the pixel there because you want your core database to be as big as possible. You want to be collecting as many users as possible from your total audience, and then you're going to create segments of those audiences to be used in certain campaigns. So sure, like you might want to run a remarketing campaign to anybody who abandoned a cart. So you'll create a URL rule specifically for that campaign that will only target a segment of your population. That's how the pixel works. The pixel is just creating a broad population. If you're using a root domain and a subdomain, something that I've done many times and something many clients do. So for example, you might have your core website is apni.com, and you might have a store or a blog or something on blog.acme.com or shop.acme.com, or you might have training courses or programs on learning.acme.com, whatever. So there might be a case where you would want to have two separate pixels, but that's probably overcomplicating things. In most cases, you would just use the exact same pixel code, and you could install it both on the root domain and on the subdomain. And the easiest way, again, to do that is through Google Tag Manager, and I will show you how to do that in a minute. So there's a few important things that you could do once you start building an audience, a total population, using your Facebook pixel. So the first, or I guess the most popular thing people will do is create custom audiences with the Facebook pixel. And that will allow you to target those audiences in campaigns. So examples of custom audiences, and just think of custom audiences as slices of your population based on certain criteria. So I have 10,000 users in my database that my pixel has picked up on. And now I want to create a campaign just from a slice of those people, or what we would call a segment, a bucket, something, we would come up with some identifiers that will pull out specific individuals, group them together in a bucket, and I'm going to use that bucket for this. And this might be a retargeting campaign. This might be a leads ads campaign, whatever it may be. Some of the popular segments, previous website visitors, or previous website visitors from the past 30 days, 180 days. You could, there's a lot of different ways you can configure an audience. Cart abandoners, people who viewed a specific page or your checkout page. Visitors of specific pages. Maybe you want to retarget to your blog readers. You could target purchasers, right? So long as you're tracking purchases as a conversion. Subscribers, again, you would need to have a registration event tracking. visitors by time spent on site. So I can have a segment of visitors that have spent, in the 75% quartile of all my visitors. So like, the outliers of them I might have, again, going back to that example, 10,000 users in my database, and maybe there's 300 of those users that have spent the most time on site compared to my entire audience, and I want to use those people in a campaign. And you could also use inclusion and exclusion lists. Like the permutations are very broad on how you could set up custom audiences, because you could create multiple rules. So you could include people that are buyers and subscribers, and you could exclude people that just visited a blog page, let's say, right? So there's a lot of different ways you could do this. And then you're going to go and use those audiences in actual campaigns. So name your audience and use those audiences. So creating custom audiences. And again, a custom audience is very different than a conversion event, but they're both using the data in the Facebook pixel. A custom audience is something you'll use for targeting ad campaigns. Tracking conversions is what you're going to be using to optimize ad campaigns and to report on ad campaigns. They're two very separate dimensions, but they're both elements that require the pixel in order to work. So the first thing is custom audiences. You must have a pixel first, collecting data in order to create custom audiences in the first place. If you want to track conversions, that's not custom audiences, that's something else. So that's setting up conversion events with the Facebook pixels. And there's a couple different ways you could do this. First, Facebook has what they call events, which is a bunch of pre-built common events that allow you to easily add a little piece of code onto the specific page that event fires on. Now let's just break this down very simply, okay? Let's just take a purchase event, for example. So I know on my website and on most of my clients' websites that when somebody buys something, they get redirected to a thank you page. Now, if anybody who lands on that thank you page is somebody who must have on the previous page completed a purchase, we would add the purchase code, the little additional purchase script that Facebook gives you, and I'm going to show you this exactly how to do this. You add that Facebook conversion script to that specific page, and this is where it differs from the pixel. The pixel is something which is added universally on every single page of a website. The specific event tag that Facebook gives you for a specific conversion is only added to the pages that signify that specific event took place. Same thing is for, let's say, a registration. If I'm running a webinar, or you have a event and there's a thank you page for that event, or there's a thank you page for that webinar that signifies somebody registered successfully, then you put that specific tag that Facebook gives you for an event on the registration page, or on the registration thank you page. Okay, so that's the concept of these pre-built Facebook events. And again, it requires some additional manual code. And then there are custom conversions that are URL based. So like I said, Facebook makes all this stuff very complicated, because within conversions, there's two fundamental ways you could do it. One, you could create URL based conversion rules. And oftentimes you could accomplish the exact same thing using two different approaches in Facebook. So for example, I could create a registration conversion through either custom conversions or through events, because Facebook happens to have a pre-built event conversion for registrations. So I could use that, or I could just create a URL base that if anybody gets to this thank you URL, fire this specific conversion. Now I would say that if you can use the pre-built, if you can use Facebook's pre-built events for conversions, and they have a lot of the core ones, like they have add to cart, initiating a checkout, adding payment info, purchasing, subscribing, starting a trial, you should, because Facebook has a lot of default reporting columns that include their default events, and it's just easier to report on. So that's my own advice, is like it's better to use Facebook's pre-built events and avoid URL-based conversions if possible, for that reason. And then there's another reason, because like let's say you change your URL at some point. Right, you have a thank you page, and you happen to change